Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage. Oh, Buddymeister, where's that mope again? Oh. Ah, what the hell is this? Buddy?
Hail, Jimmy?
Jimmy Kushua. Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage.
And I'm Dennis, the Buddymeister. Hail, Jimmy.
And once a month we let all our patrons and YouTube members decide which movie we should review next. The latest poll was all about Hindi superhero movies.
It was a very close call between Bhavesh Joshi Superhero and Mr. India, but in the end, the classic Mr. India won.
If you want to vote, please consider becoming a patron or YouTube member as well. The next poll is already up and this time it's all about Tamil director Bala. You can choose between Naan Kadavul, Nanda and Paradesi.
Mr. India is a 1987 Hindi-language sci-fi superhero film that was written by the famous duo Salim Javed in what would become their final collaboration. It was directed by Shekhar Kapur, whom we already know from Bandit Queen.
Mr. India is of course very much inspired by H.G. Wells' novel The Invisible Man from 1897, which was adapted numerous times throughout the history of cinema, with 1933's The Invisible Man by James Whale being the first one.
Mr. India became quite the talk of Hindi cinema after it was released, mainly because this fantastical science fiction superhero genre wasn't something that was covered that often by directors, quite the opposite. It became the breakthrough for director Shekhar Kapur and the cast members, and it of course attained cult status in no time.
And it led to Kapoor being called the Steven Spielberg of India, and we are going to talk about that a little bit later. For now, let me just say that I had a fantastic time with Mr. India, and it's easily one of my favorite family masala entertainers. The main cast is fantastic, the songs are wonderful, it has heart, it has humor, and some nice action as well.
It's almost like the perfect mixture. I love this movie, and I was hooked right from the start. This priceless 80s feeling, this James Bond vibe, the adventurous atmosphere and this immediate and comfortable sense of wonder is just so welcoming.
And that beginning already introduces us to one of the highlights of the movie. The one and only Amrish Puri as the film's super iconic villain Mogambo. Amrish Puri has been one of my favorite movie villains from my childhood because of his iconic performance in Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And it's so awesome to finally discover him in his many roles in Indian movies, like Kalapani, DDLJ, Talapati or now this one, which is easily my favorite.
He feels like a mixture of a crazy James Bond villain, Mola Ram and Skeletor from 1987's Masters of the Universe. And there's also a bit of Herbert Loomis Dreyfus in there from the Pink Panther movies.
The inspiration from the James Bond movies is quite apparent because of Mogambo's wonderful lair, but they make it their own completely.
Yes, and you can see how much fun Amrish Puri must have had with this role. I mean, he's going full maniac here with his big eyes, his screaming, the iconic catchphrase Mogambo Kushwa. It's certainly a bit goofy and also trashy, but it's just so much fun you just don't care.
Mr. India is a classic good versus evil story. It's about an ordinary Indian who is fighting back against gangsters, terrorists and corruption.
Arun Varma, played by Anil Kapoor, is a poor but big-hearted man who takes orphans into his home. After discovering a gadget that grants invisibility, he rises to the occasion and fights to save his children and all of India from the clutches of the megalomaniac Mogambo.
But he does so with the help of Seema, played by Sridevi, a journalist who crosses his path by accident.
Like we said, Mr. India is a grand entertainer. It's really a movie for everybody, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, you kind of have to love this peculiar family movie mix. A villain that dissolves people in acid, the smuggling of drugs, and then all these little children and the sentimentality.
And it's also quite silly, which is just awesome.
It's a total coincidence, but this constellation with the many children and this young woman who can't stand them, at least at first, reminded me a little bit of the Kurt Russell Goldie Hawn comedy Overboard that was released the same year.
I haven't seen that one in a long time. I was reminded of different movies actually. I guess the 80s vibe brought back some fond memories of my childhood and youth. And that's where Steven Spielberg and this magical time of adventure movies comes into play. The Indiana Jones movies, E.T., Richard Donner's The Goonies. Shekhar Kapur captured that feeling beautifully.
But that's also thanks to the wonderful cinematography by Baba Azmi and a great production design by Bijon Dasgupta, who, as chance would have it, also did the design for Kshanak Kshanam, another movie that reminded us of Indiana Jones. Our review for that one is already up for patrons and YouTube members. But it's not only Mogambo's stunningly designed lair that caught my eye. Arun's house also has a terrific design with the different floors and this open and very accessible space.
The score by the duo Lakshmikant Pyarelal is also wonderful with its orchestral grandeur. It's emotional and lush, and it boasts some great leitmotifs and themes that are used in excellent ways throughout the film. There are many moments that truly give you goosebumps.
Including the songs. There's not a song in there I'd want to miss.
Me neither, they are wonderful.
The sixth song in the movie, which is the first on the soundtrack album, is probably the standout. Kate Nahin Kate. It's the love song of the movie and the whole sequence is just incredibly shot. Sridevi in this blue dress in the rain. Of all the Indian song and dance numbers we have seen, this is one of the most erotic, most passionate ones for sure.
10 out of 10, but not because it's so erotic. I mean, not only. But like you said, the way it is shot is simply fantastic. How they incorporated the invisibility, the colors and the depth with something happening in the foreground and something happening in the background. It's jaw-dropping. And the song itself, the melody is just wonderful. And of course, it's the one and only Kishore Kumar who sings it.
Of course.
Now, how did you like Anil Kapoor?
I was honestly surprised how much I enjoyed him in this one. He's really innocent and charming and it's easy to root for him. What did you think?
I agree, his soft face fits this character perfectly and the tenderness that this character needs comes naturally to him. Of course he can also be a total goofball, like when he beats up all those guys in the casino and one of the children watches him through his red glasses.
Yeah, Mr. India's kryptonite, which sadly doesn't become a real problem for him, but it's alright. Enough of Anil Kapoor, you know the real reason why we're here.
Real reason?
We are here to talk about Sridevi.
Ah, yeah. Of course.
We have seen her in 2 movies now, first in English Winglish and then in Kshanak Kshanam. Again, already up for all patrons and YouTube members. And since I was already a fan, I really don't know what I am now after watching her in Mr. India. She's outstanding here.
Apparently many people started calling the film Miss India because of her.
And rightfully so. She isn't just drop-dead gorgeous, but her comedic chops are so great.
Yeah, this is the complete performance. She's incomparable in this movie. She gives her all. The facial expressions, the physicality when she dances or when she does a fantastic Charlie Chaplin impression. She's silly, she's self-aware, it's the perfect performance.
And the little details, for example in the scene where she's wearing the fruit hat and is constantly eating from it. Whenever she's in a scene, the screen lightens up and there's a certain spark that makes a difference between an actor and a star.
And it's a surprisingly empowered role for a movie from this decade.
Sure, I mean there is a scene where she's the damsel in distress, chained up and ready to be rescued from Mr. India, but throughout the movie she's also a very strong character with a significant effect on the progression of the story. And especially in the finale, it is her who openly asks Arun if he really thinks that she will leave him alone now after he has supported her all this time.
That's one of the best moments in the movie and certainly one that gives you goosebumps. And shortly after that, Seema gets her little revenge for this whole chain scene, which is great.
She's also the star of the second song and dance number, which is absolutely hilarious. In its center is the football of the children. It's the clash between her and the children, and I just love it when they find something fun and unique for the songs, besides the usual romantic stuff.
It's quite funny how Arun is lamenting with all his heart that she's resenting his children, and how harshly she is telling him to get lost.
By the way, before I forgot, I loved all the scenes with Seema's boss at the newspaper. The constant screaming. Anu Kapoor, whose real name is actually also Anil Kapoor, is hilarious in the role.
Yes, he's a great side character who brings another kind of madness into all of this, and he's also part of the final joke of the movie, which could have been better to be honest.
That's true, but Mr. India is really not short on great jokes and moments of pure cinematic joy. With a runtime of 3 hours, it's a super long movie, and of course it once again takes a very long time until the actual special ingredient of the story, the invisibility gadget, comes into play. But the movie is so stuffed with wonderful scenes and heart and comedy that I honestly didn't really mind the runtime at all.
Me neither. This movie is never boring. It's structured so well and executed in such a skillful and entertaining way, those 3 hours just fly by. If I had to criticize something, I guess it would be what you said earlier, that Mr. India's kryptonite, the red light, wasn't utilized enough to give him some kind of trouble. Mogambo kind of uses it against him in the end, but it doesn't really have any effect. So yeah, I wished Mr. India would have had a little bit more trouble.
That's a good point. My biggest gripe might actually be how kind of lazy the whole invisibility gadget is woven into the narrative. The whole thing with Arun's late father being this renowned scientist. It just felt a bit contrived and not really that organic.
You kind of lose sight of this backstory anyway, it's like you don't really need it, but I'd agree. Let's say a few words about the finale. They went full terrorist attack.
It's the best way to get the audience amped up. Personally, I don't think the outcome was really necessary, but I also think that it's an element that's very common in Indian cinema. And I have to say, the whole sequence on the playground, how it is shot and edited, is really powerful.
What an awesome movie. What would we say in German about Mr. India?
Mr. India ist unkomplizierte, verspielte und mitreißende Unterhaltung für die ganze Familie. Die perfekte kreative Mischung aus Humor, Spannung, Liedern, Tanz und der richtigen Menge Magie. I give Mr. India 8 out of 10. It's more like 8.2, but I don't do that.
For me, it's 9 out of 10. It's more like 8.5, but I don't do that either.
Mogambo. Joshua.
Did you know that about a year ago, a team of scientists found a unique light wave that, when passed through a solid object, projects onto the surface of the object in the background, essentially rendering the foreground object invisible. So this light wave seems to defy the laws of light reflection.
Still a long way for me to become an invisible superhero though. So, what are your thoughts about Mr. India? Leave a comment and hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and also on Patreon, simply at the Jimmy Cage.
And you can hit me up on Twitter at the Bodymeister.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all we have to tell.